Welcome back to the 2023 Vancouver Regional Championships. We are so close to crowning our champion for this weekend. We just have one more finalist to show from our top 4 matches, and then we'll be able to bring you guys what I'm sure is going to be an amazing finals based on the games we've had today. My name is Maeve O'Rourke, and I'm joined by Scott Glaza.
Excited to be here. I think it'll be a heck of a finals, right? I think the winner of our next match is really going to have their work cut out for them. Abdullah has just been playing fantastic on stream so far.
It's so crazy to have a situation like Abdullah's where we just had the one with Justin Zheng a few weeks ago back in Knoxville, and to see these trainers who are coming to their first regional event and truly having show-stopping performances is so cool. But also even thinking about how Abdullah had said, you know, he wanted to play at the level of his idols like Wolf Glick and Aaron Zheng, and now there's a chance he could play Aaron Zheng in finals, which is just such a neat opportunity. Or, you know, with our other player, Ryan Loseto, we could have a full Canadian finals here for Vancouver, which would be also another really cool storyline.
Yeah, I had all my jokes written for when all the Canadian players were eliminated, and it looks like it's never going to happen. And yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the flip side, you know, Aaron's going to have to see here. I mean, he's got quite a few achievements, but he's going to have to add another one, see if he can get up at the same level as Abdullah.
I mean, yeah, literally, right? Absolutely. With I think something that's really neat here too is Aaron is, if Aaron wins, he'll be once again one more win behind Wolf Glick in the regional champion title, which is always something that I find is really fun as well. But Aaron's team, we have seen it now multiple times on stream. That Baxcalibur has put in work all weekend, whereas here for Ryan, he has definitely got a lot of opportunities, I think, with the Pokemon on his side. The King Gambit, the Great Tusk, the Fluttermane, Corviknight, who we saw put in so much work in those rounds a little bit ago, and it was just able to kind of sit there and tank through, and I think that that might be something that Aaron really has to deal with.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Ryan too. I feel like I'm a little concerned it comes off as a little bit of an Aaron Zheng biased broadcast just because he's such a big part of the community, but you know, Ryan's been around for a long time. I think it's super cool to get to see him have a big performance like this. You know, so many players get to put in the work, and then they try so hard to like never kind of get this moment. So it's nice to see this. You know, I really hope he has a good set here.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to see the Canadian community doing as well as they have. I know Ryan also has a really great plush game for the weekend, bringing that Sableye, who's one of my favorites, onto the stage, which I think is a really cool addition as well. But let's look at these teams. I mean, these players are ready. They want to jump pretty much right into this, and I know we do as well, right? We're looking at Ryan's team. This is something a little bit different than what Aaron has kind of played a lot of today. He's been dealing with a lot of those Dondozo matchups, and now I think it's going to be a bit of a different game plan that he's got to prep for.
Yeah, I think this is pretty interesting. You know, 5 of Ryan's Pokemon are pretty conventional, like sort of the Pokemon we've seen a lot. You know, we're familiar with the Great Tusk, seen a lot of King Gambit, Fluttermane, literally the most popular Pokemon, both on day 1 and day 2, you know, Bundle and the Arcanine. We've seen a lot less of the Corviknight. I think it's actually a pretty tough matchup for a lot of the Pokemon on Aaron's side of the field, where it's annoying, it's immune to that Earthquake that we've seen do so much damage from his Baxcalibur. So I think Aaron's really going to have to consider that. You know, Corviknight's gotten a little bit of hate from the cast so far just because it's a little bit of a passive Pokemon. This one less so than some of the other Corviknight we've seen because it is capable of increasing its stats with that bulk up move. So I don't know if that'll be a key element of the strategy Ryan chooses to use or not, but definitely something that Aaron hasn't had to consider in its past matches.
Yeah, and I think this Corviknight, right, one thing that's really interesting, it is Terra-type Dragon. I don't think we'll see that Terra-type because I think this Corviknight wants to be airborne far more often than it would want it to be grounded, especially with something like that Terra Ground Baxcalibur running around. It also doesn't really want to Dragon Terra because of that Baxcalibur and a couple of other things, the Fluttermane. But if it's still on the field, it's still really tough to deal with. That Mirror Armor is such a great ability as well to bounce those stat drops back onto the opposite side of the field. These trainers, though, are getting right into it. We're seeing King Gambit and Corviknight, a double steal lead, and Talonflame and Fluttermane on Aaron Zheng's side.
Yeah, it's a little bit different look from what we've seen from Aaron in the previous games. Yeah, it's I'm excited to see how he plays this week. I think it's a tough series to the Baxcalibur, and you know, it felt like in the last time we saw Aaron, the Iron Bundle is kind of the MVP, but we're really seeing the consequences of not having Hydro Pump. It makes it very difficult to pick against this team. So I'm not sure if Aaron's going to feel like he's forced to use the other 4 Pokemon or not, but he's going to have to play this match a great deal more carefully than the previous one, just because I think it's easier for him to get caught in situations where you know, the combination of Pokemon he has left just don't work.
Yeah, I mean, this is just such a bulky lead out of Ryan as well, right? Like, you can still have the opportunity to just kind of go for some big iron heads, sucker punches, a couple of different things if you need to, but at the same time, you're just putting out so much pressure by not allowing for Aaron to get a quick knockout early on in the set and not gain a giant piece of momentum. But Flare Blitz from the Talonflame, not a move you see often run on those Pokemon, but it does do a lot of damage there onto that Corviknight. Shadow Ball from the Fluttermane as well. Aaron knows what his priority is in this match and is able to take that knockout with a great double target, ignoring the King Gambit completely.
You see big hit the other direction. This Iron Head going to pick up a return knockout on the Fluttermane, and battle's going faster. Get a knockout for both sides right on turn 1.
Yeah, huge trade there, I think, for both of these trainers. But, at that point, right, you can see why Aaron finds that Corviknight so threatening to the rest of his team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough Pokemon for him to deal with, like we mentioned. Now, no longer a problem, at least for this game 1. And you do see another neat trick there for Aaron's side of the field. It's open team sheet, so it's not like it's surprising Ryan. But, you don't see Flare Blitz on Talonflame too frequently anymore. But it is the opposing Iron Bundle coming out here. I believe it does have Hydro Pump, so threatening that onto both of these Pokemon who don't want to be hit by that or really be hit by the ice type attacks either.
Yeah, I don't think that they would love to deal with that, right? You can still protect and try and get a Tailwind up, but then does Ryan try and call that and see if they can double target down into the Talonflame instead and ignore that Great Tusk, because your Great Tusk does feel like one of your best answers into that King Gambit on the opposite side.
Yeah, it's a very precarious position for Aaron, right? He's already lost a Pokemon. The Talonflame is going to be pretty difficult to keep active here. I mean, kind of the same thing for Ryan, right? Where Iron Bundle, at least it's applying a ton of pressure here, but also goes down easily. And we see as Aaron hovers the switch there, his last Pokemon is Iron Bundle. Also going to be a difficult Pokemon to keep alive here. So yeah, he's going to have to be very careful. It's other than the Great Tusk and that Focus Sash, a lot of things go down easy.
Yeah, looking like there's a little bit more of an offensive play here. Going for this Terastallization of the Ghost typing into that Talonflame will prevent it from taking some big, super effective damage from something like a Hydro Pump as well. And may also, the problem being, you could take some tough Sucker Punch damage if there's a call from that King Gambit on the opposite side of the field. So a bit of a gamble here from Aaron, and it looks like the Sucker Punch went into that Great Tusk instead. Does break the Focus Sash here. Iron Bundle's Freeze Dry, double targets down into the Great Tusk as well. Enough to pick up that knockout pretty easily here. Enough as well, I think, for things to maybe kind of change. Aaron is going to have to make some big plays, but Will-O-Wisp, he connects it here in his time of need into that King Gambit just to start lowering the attack and put that thing on a bit of a timer.
Yeah, I mean, he hits the Will-O-Wisp in the semifinals in Vancouver this time, but at what cost? I mean, it's a big knockout he's giving up. And again, Aaron's running out of resources here. He has an Iron Bundle that only has ice-type attacks available to it. Going to be very difficult for him to break down that King Gambit, and at least it's burned, so he can perhaps slowly knock it out. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult for him to close this one out here. He's going to have to play this very carefully.
Yeah, I mean, the Flare Blitz does allow for a nice amount of pressure at that point, but then you're still slower because, the Talonflame's it does not have access to its Gale Wings anymore because it had taken some recoil damage. If you want to go for a Flare Blitz into the King Gambit, which would be a really nice call to make, you still then have to face the threat of that Iron Bundle on the opposite side of the field, and it probably just feels more inclined to click Freeze Dry and be 100% accurate anyway and not worry about missing a Hydro Pump.
Yeah, I guess on the plus side, at least both the the plus side for Aaron, I should say, at least the Iron Bundles, threatening the same sort of things back and forth where Hydro Pump isn't super relevant, at least in the battle between them. Yeah, Aaron's going to figure out a way to actually knock at this King Gambit. He does have the option of trying to encore it, but then what, right?
Yeah, exactly. Iron Bundle, though, protecting here for Aaron Zheng. Going to try and keep itself safe just for the moment instead of getting targeted down. The opposing Iron Bundle goes for the Freeze Dry, though, into the Talonflame. It is not enough to pick up that knockout here. Tailwind will go down, and this will allow for the speed on Aaron's side to be faster than on the other side. Not worry about anything like a Speed Tie. Assurance, though, because it already took some damage, is an incredibly powerful move. Will knock out this Talonflame. It is currently Iron Bundle against the world. Yeah,
I love the way that Ryan's played this game. He correctly identifies there, well, you don't have Hydro Pump, so you're going to have a very difficult time knocking at this King Gambit. I'm just going to defeat all the other Pokemon first and then have the ability just to kind of focus on the matchup between King Gambit and your Iron Bundle. Well, I also have 2 other Pokemon to use, and yeah, I think for poor Aaron here, the writing's kind of on the wall. I think this game was just very decisively played by Ryan.
Yeah, I think Aaron now, in his matchup for Game 2, there's a couple of different things that he needs to prioritize, and one of them is if you bring that Fluttermane, you have to keep it healthy. Fluttermane is a really nice piece of this puzzle. Getting this Freeze Dry onto the Iron Bundle, it's not even a one-hit knockout, but it is at least, decent information. I mean, typically you know that calc pretty comfortably as well, but it does kind of prove here as well that that's a Speed Tie by seeing both of those Iron Bundles and Aaron's moving faster. Interesting at least to note, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth getting that information for Aaron. Like, it is a veteran move there, just kind of like, all right, I know I've lost. Wait a second, there's still something I can get out of this game, even though it's not going to be a dub. It's probably information he expected, but still, it's worth confirming that, I think, especially when you've lost the first game in a set, where you don't want to then, or your tournament will be over if you then move forward, you guess wrong about something like that, and it causes you to mess up one of the subsequent games. So I think just a fantastic start by Ryan there, and Aaron's got to go back to the drawing board a little bit. We saw his strategy for that game where he kind of all in, taking out the Corviknight. And he did pick up that knockout, but it doesn't really seem like the trade wound up being worth it for it then, right? The game kind of just fell apart, where he's never really able to get settled in that game afterward.
I think the Talonflame just wasn't, I mean, the Flare Blitz was nice to have for the Corviknight, but it didn't help as much as I think it hurt him in the end of it by not having access to Gale Wings. He did not bring back Excalibur. It didn't come to that game. I think it has the opportunity to come to this game. Maybe some priority could just be nice with that Ice Shard. I think there's a couple of different opportunities here, I think, for Aaron to even just change his lead. I think Excalibur could be decently strong. I mean, you still have the threat of a couple Pokemon on the opposite side of the field, but even a Ground Terror could help you with a couple of different things. And as well, if you can probably try and find a way to deal with that Iron Bundle on the opposite side, then you may be pretty golden.
Yeah, I mean, I think something too is like, I get why Aaron played the beginning of that game. Like, his Corviknight matchup is bad. I think it is especially bad with this bulk up reset, where you can't really wear it down. He's got a bunch of Pokemon with bad type matchups. He has a bunch of physical attackers, and then his one special attacker, was one primary special attacker, I guess. Like, we saw it get knocked out very quickly that last game, where if instead Ryan had perhaps chosen to switch, he still gives up that knockout. Just the combination of his two steel type Pokemon, there are answers, but they're tough ones. I think perhaps Great Tusk getting involved sooner, trying to pressure those Pokemon. Neither of them want to be hit by a close combat. Maybe that would help out for him.
Kingambit and Corviknight once again for Ryan here with Talonflame and Brute Bonnet. So a couple of different things here. I think Sleep could be pretty nice.
Yeah, it could be nice, asterisk. The Corviknight does have those safety goggles, so there won't be any spores going into that slot. It would be an option for the Kingambit, though.
Yes.
We saw last game the Burn, which would also be a good option here if he doesn't believe that he needs that Tailwind right away. But yeah, I think we'll likely see him going for some status effects here. Certainly not threatening a whole lot of damage or anything other than the Flare Blitz, and kind of as you mentioned, that comes at a cost, especially breaking that Gale Wings.
Yeah, especially, right? And you see that oftentimes with the Brave Bird as well, and that kind of just ends up being, what does Aaron feel is important for his prioritization of the matchup? And what do you find more important? Will-O-Wisp, and it does avoid onto that Corviknight here. Corviknight's Brave Bird targeting down into that Brute Bonnet. It's enough for the one-hit knockout. That burn was probably pretty big. A critical hit on top of it all. Nothing feels good about that turn for Aaron. Oh,
this is such a tough matchup to begin with, and everything going wrong on turn one. Will-O-Wisp for the semifinals once again, and oh man, it's almost even worse. Ryan is going for the double target to try to make that less relevant, and it's an extra damage in Talonflame instead, still having that Gale Winds get broken because of the critical hit.
Yeah, that just really is a rough one there for Aaron. Not really, I think, the way that they wanted to start out this match. You still have some big heavy hitters in the back. You can still do some damage, but now might even be the point, right, where I think Ryan can slow this game down in their favor. You didn't get the Tailwind set up. You didn't get the burn. There's a lot that Aaron would need to do to crawl back into this match.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan has spent nothing but, little over a third of Corviknight's HP, right? He hasn't committed any resources. He hasn't shown his back Pokemon. Aaron got to reposition a little bit, but it's not like Excalibur is a fantastic matchup with either of these Pokemon, so it wasn't that free of a switch. Just really a tough spot for Aaron. And again, he's got the same problem as last game, right? Where his team struggles a little bit with Steel-type Pokemon, especially ones that don't touch the ground like Corviknight, and he's got to be very careful with the way he uses his very limited remaining Pokemon.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough, right? Because you want to click Earthquake into Kingambit. It feels like such a nice move to click. You do have your flying partner Pokemon next to you, but then that Corviknight is still such a problem. Talonflame, though, is still the fastest thing on the field. It can click this Tailwind. Not going to have to worry about getting sucker punched or anything like that. But Excalibur's Icicle Crash into the Kingambit does not do a whole lot of damage as well here. Corviknight matching Tailwind for Tailwind. Ryan not going to let that fly.
Yeah, I mean, a really smart move there, and Kingambit now, this Iron Head's going to do a whole bunch of damage.
It does so much damage, brings that Excalibur down into the bottom 10 or 25-ish% of its health.
Yeah, it's a very dominating game two here after the way turn one played out. Somewhat strange looking Icicle Crash. I think Aaron realizing he needs a little help at this point, trying to fish for an ill-advised terrestrialization perhaps, but Ryan, smart player, is showing why he's gotten here, not going to give him that easy attack.
Yeah, I mean, we can see what's in the back here for Aaron. It's Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle is a really nice Pokemon to have when you know you have the speed advantage. If you're Aaron, right, your opportunity would be if you get Iron Bundle and you got to get some freeze dry freezes, right? That's kind of where things end up kind of breaking down. If you get the Will-O-Wisp, that might be nice as well, but the Flare Blitz I think is more important damage. We saw how much it did to the Corviknight in game 1. It did bring it down to just about half of its HP, so I think it would probably still hang on from there. Baxcalibur is switching out though, bringing in the Iron Bundle into this game. Baxcalibur probably not wanting to deal with too much more damage, especially in the face of something like an Iron Head from that King Gambit. Has this speed advantage with the Quark Drive boost. Corviknight though also going to switch out of here, probably not wanting to take this Flare Blitz that may be heading its way and bringing in a Pokemon that handles that way better.
Yeah, can I get the Intimidate down the Talonflame for what that matters? You know, I guess at this point, I guess you could try to go for the burn on the King Gambit. Aaron basically forced to switch because of the threat of Sucker Punch, and it's not even going to come out.
Flare Blitz into the King Gambit does do a good chunk of damage. You still take that recoil, though. This King Gambit still can fire off with an Assurance right back into the Talonflame. That's enough for that knockout as well, and now Talonflame being sent back into its Pokeball. Aaron now having to fight through this with just the Baxcalibur at a low amount of HP in the Iron Bundle.
Yeah, it's tough too. Aaron switched last turn in part because Baxcalibur is an Assault Vest Pokemon, only has attacking moves. Can't do anything to avoid being Sucker Punched by the King Gambit. Now, I'm no longer able to switch, has to use an attack here. So Ryan can just take that knockout if he wants to and bring this game to 4-1.
Ryan is playing this game so well, right? There is a lot of preparation on his part, and I think it's really showing. The wiseness of keeping the Arcanine, sending it out, is nice, and now especially because you know that the Baxcalibur can't exactly switch in on a Flare Blitz, you have a really comfortable target, possibly into the Iron Bundle if you need to. You can pretty freely, I think, click Snarl as well, just kind of get some drops, and then if you send in another Pokemon that can do some big damage onto it, no matter, depending on what Ryan has in the back.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what beats Sucker Punch Flare Blitz here, right? Where Arcanine doesn't have to be afraid of Hydro Pump because it's not there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, you know, you're not too worried. You know that you don't want to click something that you can get Encored into if you're Ryan. So I think Ryan is very cognizant of that fact. Aaron's going to terrestrialize that Baxcalibur into that ground typing like we've seen many times this weekend. Will allow for a more powerful Earthquake here. Also showing no switches, so you would get the target, but this Sucker Punch into Baxcalibur is enough to get the knockout here. Not able to put out any damage output that it desperately needed to this turn. And Ryan is looking like he has earned his spot in the way to the finals, so long as, you know, a couple of pretty safe clicks here. Icy Wind into both of those Pokemon slows them both down here. Is still at risk of taking something from this Arcanine. King Gambit's Define as well is going to boost that attack.
Yeah, it's, you know, Aaron perhaps choosing to end this with a bang. One giant attack from this King Gambit. Not much he could do. I've been really impressed with the way Ryan played this one.
Yes.
You know, I think that the combination of 3 Pokemon seen in this match so far are a great matchup, but what an amazingly played set.
That is it there for both of these trainers. Writing on the wall for Aaron Zheng, that means that Ryan Loseto will be moving on to the finals of the Vancouver Regional Championships. We have a